I've heard people say, Microsoft's just going to buy OpenAI. You're just making big tech bigger.
Now, this is the best question of the interview. Hello, commercial streams. We're getting ready for Coda Radio episode 532 coming up. Mr. Dominic is en route. It should be a nice, quick, dynamic one this week, so glad you're here. We're watching a Bloomberg original. They're interviewing Sam Altman, and he's been basically giving us nothing, but we just got to potentially the most interesting question.
I don't even know to look at yet that could come up with some really new idea we missed.
How would you describe your relationship with Satya Nadella, how much control they have? I've heard people say, Microsoft's just going to buy OpenAI. You're just making big tech bigger.
Company's not for sale. I don't know how to be more clear than that. We have a great relationship with them. I think it's that these big major partnerships between tech companies usually don't work. This is an example of it working really well. We're super grateful for it.
Have you talked to Elon at all behind the scenes?
Sometimes.
What do you guys talk about? I mean, it's getting heated in the public.
Yeah.
The question isn't really about today, right? Because Sam and crew are kind of riding high. The question is, what happens at the end of 2024 when money is running tight? Microsoft has baked this into all of their products. They've invested billions of dollars. There's got to be a clause in there that says if things go belly up, Microsoft has, a first mover advantage or something. And Microsoft probably has insights into the books and the financials as an investor, so they have an eye on how this is going. So he says the company's not for sale, but he says it's not for sale, but it's not for sale today. But what about at the end of 2024 or early 2025?
Your partnerships between tech companies usually don't work. This is an example of it working really well. We're super grateful for it.
Have you talked to Elon at all behind the scenes?
Sometimes.
What do you guys talk about? I mean, it's getting heated in the public.
Yeah. We talk about a super wide variety of important and totally trivial stuff.
Why do you think he's so frustrated or kind of it's almost...
This guy's the master of the non-answer.
There's some attacking going on in a way.
You should ask him.
I would like to know.
Gosh.
I'd like to better understand it.
I don't think this is in the top 100 most important things happening related to AI right now.
Oh, again, he kind of mocks her. This is the second time he's mocked her questioning. And he just does it with a smirk and eye contact. Imagine having a private conversation where this guy thinks he's got you. And if this is what he's doing in an interview with the cameras on in front of Bloomberg, you have to imagine this moment right here only 100 times worse in private.
I don't think this is in the top 100 most important things happening related to AI right now, for what it's worth.
Is there any aspect of our lives that you think AI should never touch?
She just shrugs it right off, of course.
My mom always used to say, never say never, never say always. And I think that's generally good advice. If I made a prediction now, I'm sure it could end up being wrong in some subtle way. I think AI is going to touch most aspects of our lives, and then there will be some parts that stay surprisingly the same. But those kind of predictions are humbling and very easy to get wrong.
What do you think kids should be studying these days?
Resilience, adaptability, a high rate of learning, creativity, certainly familiarity with the tools.
So they should be studying creativity and a high rate of learning. Okay. That's great advice, Sam.
Adaptability, a high rate of learning, creativity, certainly.
Things that are personality traits and generally you kind of are conditioned by the world around you. Things you don't just generally go to school to learn.
Resilience, adaptability, a high rate of learning, creativity, certainly familiarity with the tools.
So should kids still be learning how to code? Because I've heard people say, don't need to learn how to code anymore. Just math, just biology.
Well, I'm biased because I like coding, but I think you should learn to code. I don't write code very much anymore, although I randomly did yesterday. But learning to code was great as a way to learn how to think. And I think coding will still be important in the future. It's just going to change a little bit or a lot. We have a new tool.
What are we all going to do when we have nothing to do?
I don't think we're ever going to have nothing to do. I think what we have to do may change. What you and I do for our jobs would not strike people from a few thousand years ago as real work. But we found new things to want and to do and ways to feel useful to other people and get fulfillment and create. And that will never stop.
I don't understand how this works. So If the AI does all of the menial tasks, then how does anybody develop the base skills to then develop the skills to build the more advanced systems, right? How does a rocket scientist understand how to build a rocket if he doesn't understand the fundamentals of combustion? And since AI is iterative based on what it's observed, it's not creating something new. So you need the human factor to create something new, but you need humans that know how to build these things. We see an example of this in the space program, right? The space program has lost fundamental skills on how to get a crew to the moon. The skill set's just been lost.
But probably, I hope you and I look, if we could look at the world a few hundred years in the future, be like, wow, those people have it so good. I can't believe they call this stuff work. It's so trivial.
So we're not going to be all just laying on the beach eating bonbons.
Some of us will, and more power to people who want to do that.
Do you think in your heart of hearts that the world is going to be more fair and more equitable?
I do. I think that technology is fundamentally an equalizing force. It needs partnership from society and our institutions to get there. But if we can, my big picture, highest level, I'll zoom all the way out view of the next decade, is that the cost of intelligence and the cost of energy come way, way down. And if those two things happen, it helps everyone, which is great. But I think it lifts up the floor a lot.
So where do you want to take OpenAI next?
So where he wants to take it next, he just wants to make it better is his answer. All right. Join our chat room. Coda Radio is about to kick off. Mr. Dominic's in house. Hello, Mr. Dominic.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Sorry about that.
I have no levels on my side.
Oh. You
I
going
guess
hear?
I don't care.
You don't hear yourself? You mean?
No, the lighty up thing.
Oh, the little visualizer. Oh, you're right. Hello.
Yeah.
It's dead, isn't it? It's dead on my end, too.
Okay, well that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Oh my god. So I just have to tell you, next week we have a scheduling conflict.
Oh, okay.
I
Alright.
used a VPN to watch some Indian polo while
Uh-huh.
I was on house arrest, and I'm
Uh-oh.
going to prison.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we
I should have saved that for the show intro.
There you go. Yeah, sure. No, we could just, if you want to do it live from prison, that's fine too. Just probably going to be a little echoey.
Well, actually, I have a great cellmate for the business side of the art and business of software development and related technologies. We call him the Big D, the Orange King. Me and Donald,
Yeah.
we're gonna
be
be sipping on
cellmates?
we're gonna be sipping on Trump vodka, and I can assure you that this is a vast liberal conspiracy.
That's where
against
all
both
those
of
Trump
us.
stakes ended up. They just sent them to the prisons. Oh, yeah.
That's why my head has been pounding. It's all the Trump vodka.
All right, chat room. The title bot is open, so please do suggest. We need your title suggestions as we go along. Coda Radio program is kicking off. Mr.
yeah.
Dominic, jump in. What's that?
I said, "Hell's yeah." Go ahead.
Hells yeah. All right. Jump in at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
All right. The rest is in the chat room's hands. Here we go. Thank you for being here, and let's get started. This is Coda Radio, episode 532 for August 22nd, 2023. Hey friend, welcome back to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the whole world of technology. My name is Host, and taking it in on a hot Florida day, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Hello, and I'm on location in the New York Federal Courthouse with my good friend Donald.
Yeah. Now, are you involved in this scheme, or are you just there for being in the crowd when he arrives?
Well, little known fact, I've had a passion for education for years, and I was actually the dean of Trump University.
Oh, sure. Some things
you
are starting
know-
to make sense now.
The Yelp reviews are
Fake news.
fake news.
Yeah, totally.
If you look at the one I featured from Tucker C,
Uh-huh.
we're doing great.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this Ronnie D used to, he was our valedictorian, but I was like, it was his birthday. I sent him the new Disney Lorcana, the Mickey Mouse deck, the new trading card game from Walt Disney World.
Jeez.
And he got all pissed off.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Who
Soft spot.
hates Mickey?
Soft spot.
I guess.
I heard you were also the buddy that advised the Big D not to get involved in the debates. Smart move, man. Nobody likes to see democracy out in the open.
Dude, kidding aside, if you're the advertisers, if there are any, right? And you like Trump is the attraction, right? I'm not watching those debates. With Trump, I would definitely watch him because if Trump were to go, he'd be up all night with his. I imagine him up all night with a little unicorn notebook, like a teenage girl writing some fanfic, giving names to all his opponents. Right? Let us not forget little Marco.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, Chris
classic.
Christie kind of writes itself.
Yeah,
DeSantis. Now, DeSanctimonious, that's some mid stuff there, Donald. You gotta
yeah.
work a little harder. But DeSantis, I'm thinking, I'm offering this freely, Creative Commons, pudding fingers.
Oh, I like it. Yeah,
For Biden, he's already got Sleepy Joe, which if you've ever watched, there's a great YouTube channel of Biden, Trump, Obama, and sometimes Ben Shapiro playing Magic the Gathering. It's AI generated, best thing on the internet.
I can't believe you're still talking
There's
about that.
there's yes, there are 4.5 hours of it. A new
Oh, wow.
episode just released.
Oh, good.
It is incredible. I love it. I keep watching it over and over again. It's honestly, it reminds me of a time when politics was just a little more slapstick.
Well, now before you hold a candle vigil or head down to Folsom, I have to pour one out, my friend. Or I guess I'm pouring one in. Microsoft has once again killed the Kinect.
Is this like a Walking Dead situation?
It's like, yeah, it's a zombie that comes back, because then they realize the franchise has legs, but just maybe at a different target audience.
Legs? I mean, I know there's actually a lot of cool research projects with it, but I feel like this is, they just keep killing the Kinect. You're literally beating a dead peripheral over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild. It's actually not dead yet either.
Not dead. It's the Black Knight of peripherals.
It's like the craziest thing. It's like a comic book character. There's this company that I don't know exactly the details, so some of this I'm just kind of assuming and guessing, but I think they're called Orbic, and I think they like bought a bunch of the IP from Microsoft, and they've already been doing this for a little bit, but like they've officially like taken over that IP now, and they've already been selling, but they're gonna continue to expand like this line of Connect devices that are purpose built for various industry, like robotics and logistics and manufacturing and fitness industries, like the ones that like where they have a very particular use case. And they're going to make the SDK essentially compatible. They're going to use an API bridge. So that way, if you're, all your stuff's written for the Microsoft version, they'll have an API bridge for their version.
Oh my God.
And then they're going to
It's
continue.
mono/XNA.
Yeah. It is like the zombie thing though, because like you imagine like the technical debt with that old code base, and now you're using this API bridge on these devices that have way higher resolution cameras and way different hardware.
You know what though? Technical debt, there's also value, right? In an enterprise industrial environment,
Totally.
this makes a ton of sense, and it's just not big enough of a market for Microsoft to give a crap about.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of think this is a good thing if you care about this kind of technology. Now, I know nothing about this Orbit company. Are they, going to be good shepherds of this technical debt? Are they going to be around a long time? Are they going to sell to TikTok or something? Right? Who
I
knows?
think I get the sense they've been around for a minute and they kind of have an established customer base, which that to me is the live or die aspect for these guys. ORBBEC.com if you want to check it out. We'll have a link in the show notes too. And so they've got like their big boy mega one for like large conference rooms, and they've got little mini ones, and they've got like a mid-size one, and seems like the price ranges from like around $400 to over $1,000 depending on what you want to do. And then of course you got to write your own software for it. I don't know.
Yeah, but the people in this market are either hiring dev shops to write it for them,
Or they already have
they're
it.
writing it. Yeah, they're not buying anything off the shelf. So this makes tons of sense. I can't tell you how many projects I've done where it's like, Jerry up a iPad or Raspberry Pi, or more recently random Android tablets to make our weird industrial peripheral that we need, right?
It seems like Microsoft just maybe missed the mark. We'll see if the Apple Vision Pro does lead an increase in development interest in
No
VR
chance.
situations. These devices would be such great companions for mapping rooms, creating 3D images of an environment that are very accurate, or perhaps working in conjunction with a VR headset.
You know who should actually be the customer for these guys?
Hmm.
The iRobot company, the Roomba company,
Sure.
because they are. This is a weird side story. So I have two Roombas, and I am very annoyed because a pal of mine has the Chinese version of that. I forgot the name of the company, and it is just objectively better. It doesn't smash into things all the time. It realizes that a cat is not a permanent object that it has to hide from forever.
And they're probably both uploading floor maps to Chinese government based shell
Oh,
companies. So
I
what's the
can
big
see
deal?
if well, one of the challenges is when I moved, I didn't realize you have to like tell the Roomba that you moved.
Go figure it out, robot.
Because for like a couple weeks, it's like I don't. There's no more rooms in this house. I'm done. Like what? It's over. But yeah, I mean, I would love a vacuum cleaner slash floor mopper that was enabled with basically the Connect, right? Connect technology.
Yeah. Yeah, they must have some sort of radar and whatnot in there or LiDAR, but yeah,
Well, we're
really.
all going to get chips in our necks anyway soon.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. Hubcap85 contacted me on Matrix and he wrote, "Hey guys, I'm a longtime listener. I'm a new dad who just lost a Web3 job. I want to say Chris was right about Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies being VC money grabs, but now I'm facing a dilemma. Should I just get out of tech? The boom bust cycles are hard to ride, and I don't know if I can keep up with the constant changes and demands of the industry. I want to have a stable and fulfilling career that allows me to provide for my family and still enjoy life. So I have a question for you guys. What would you do for a living if it had to be outside of tech? Do you think you have any skills or passions that could translate into a different profession? I'm curious to hear your thoughts and advice. Thanks for the great show. Keep up the work. Sincerely, a delusioned coder from Nashville."
Hmm.
Hubcap
Well,
from
first of all,
Nashville.
congratulations on the child.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Big step.
remember I was, in my very early 30s or maybe just turned 30 when I had my first kid. It really made me rethink a lot of my work
Yep.
choices.
I don't know. What would you do?
If I had to do something out of tech, I mean, I'd probably still have tried to do something in radio or media, perhaps. 'Cause I was pretty into that from a really young age. It just never seemed viable for somebody who didn't have an in to the industry. So I just went on to tech. But I think if I had, if I just followed my very first passion, it might have been radio. But I don't know. It's a tough call because I fantasize more about something that I can really take my time, but also produces results like a barbecue restaurant or something like that, which would be ridiculous and hard, and I would suck at for many years. But I fantasize about something where I make a few things, I get really good at that. I kind of iterate on that over the years. Then I go home at the end of the day and I don't think about it much other than thinking about meat. But I think that's so far out because I don't really have any current skills that would translate to that. Where something in communications would probably work.
See, for mine, you don't need any skills.
Oh,
I would have been much more cautious in my college and early 20s and have gone into politics. I think,
oh,
given the idiots who are junior Republican congressmen right now, I would have wiped the floor with them.
boy, I never really thought about going into politics. That'd have been
Yeah,
interesting.
what do you have to do? You have to understand things, be able to quickly come up with answers on the fly,
Talk on your feet, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And deny
Yeah,
things that are
right.
incriminating.
Know when to push the message, know when to bail. That's it. Yeah,
Right? Know what calls to take, what calls to
that would have been
decline.
great.
Yep.
God, good thinking. The other thing that crossed my mind is if I had hindsight, I think a trade skill would have been really interesting to learn, like an electrician or something in the crafts, or
Oh,
potentially,
financially, that's amazing, right?
yeah, that would have been great. Or even like a technician to work, a mechanic or an RV technician. They're so in demand right now that if I was a qualified mechanic, I could go get a job. I know two shops I could go get a job from right now. And I wouldn't mind that kind of work either. I think, but I don't know. Maybe I only enjoy it because I do it as a hobby. But those are things that cross my mind, Hubcap. But I don't know about you. I don't know what you have skills with, but keep us posted. Let us know how that turns out for you. And yet again, congratulations. Just a really short follow up because yay. Remember that horrible, horrible self driving patent from Ford where they would seize your vehicle if you were late on payments? Well, Ford was granted the patent.
Of course they were.
Yeah, we don't know if they're going to use it, but yeah.
We don't. I think we have some idea.
You think they will?
I think they will.
Yeah, I do too, actually. I hate to be such a cynic, but
Yeah, because not to hark on it, but my idiotic AT&T situation, right? If the rich company can just put the onus on you to prove that you're innocent, right?
yeah.
There will be cases where someone's car just drives itself away and the poor bastard has to like prove to Ford Financial or whatever their I may be conflating it with GM, but whatever their loan servicing division is, that they are not in fact late on their payments, right? It's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
it's really stupid.
I think they will too because it's a solvable problem. It's actually easier than full self-driving because it just needs to be able to drive itself to a repo or to a dealership. There's Ford dealerships everywhere across the country, and there's lots of repo locations. So if it can manage some self-driving, it just has to get itself from A to B, and there'll probably be some situations where they can't do it, but there'll probably be a good percentage where they can. I just had a really I'm never doing, I have let me back up. I have had the iPhone upgrade program since the iPhone 7. That's when Apple got me, and I just thought I'm going to just do this. I'll keep up to date, and I'll just get the phone every year. And for the most part, I've pretty much liked the program. However, with the last upgrade program, they put a different email address for my contact for certain information, not everything, and they put it on a different card. And so yesterday, I called them up to figure out what was going on because I'd noticed I'm only getting some communication. I haven't got an account balance. It's not on the card. It's supposed like I'm, going through the books. It's like it's not in the right spot, and I had no idea what was going on. And I'm starting absolutely from zero. Like I don't even know my account number for this loan program because it's all done through the Apple Store app. They just, you go in a couple of nights before, you do your pre-order, they get it all queued up, and then when they open up the pre-orders, you just go in and hit buy. You don't really finalize any details or change anything at that point. And so I didn't even catch that they had made this change. So I eventually got on the phone with Capital One, the people that do the iPhone loan program, and discovered that they hadn't successfully been able to bill me for a couple of months and that I was just moments away from basically getting my credit completely ruined because they somehow got the wrong email address in this entire automated system. And I was about to be fed to the hounds, and I had absolutely no idea it was going on. And I could only imagine something like that happening with my vehicle or something that I need to be able to, take care of my kids and get to work. These systems screw up constantly. And I'm never doing after this experience because I had to go. First of all, they started treating me like I did. It just all of a sudden the tone changed. Like as soon as they realized that I had an account that had a negative balance or whatever you call it, a behind balance, the tone of the call got really hostile. They told me they're going to start recording it. They started referring to me as Mr. Fisher instead of Chris, and like all this stuff just changed. And it's like I felt
Oh yeah.
like a criminal all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, I paid the thing off, and I'm done. I'm never doing the upgrade program again. Anyways, just
Yeah, and also, do you really need a new phone every year?
no, I don't think so. That's just it.
I
too.
don't think so either. Yeah.
That's going to be a hard case for them to make this year. Hey, really quick, meetup's coming up. Meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. If you're in Berlin, Friday, September 8th, Berlin with Brent is back. Nextcloud conference is going on. There's a whole bunch going on around then, so go get the details. It's going to be at the Nextcloud offices, meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting on September 8th. Keep in mind, the meetup times can be in Pacific on the page because they just think that we're doing all our meetups in Seattle, I guess. They haven't really thought about the fact that you might want to host a meetup in a different time zone. So watch out for the time zone stuff. But details are at meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. And then shortly after that, on Saturday, September 16th, I'm going to be in Spokane, Washington for an Eastern Washington meetup. I promised people a couple of years ago I would do this. I'm making good. Right now, we're doing it at the Iron Goat Brewing. Of course, I am open to other ideas. I'm just looking for something that's family friendly and doesn't have a big reservation cost and has lots of room and good food and snacks. And this looks like it could be it. So if you're in the Spokane area or anywhere nearby, September 16th on Saturday, I'll be there hanging out 1 p.m. at the Iron Goat Brewing Company. And we'll fly Mr. Dominic in on, what's that really fast jet called? I forget. That really fast. We'll fly in on that.
The Concorde?
Oh, yeah, the Concorde. Wait, what? Oh, they don't fly the All right, well, maybe next time. Maybe next time. Sorry.
One day, listen, the aliens are coming. And we'll just teleport me, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Stargate, teleport. whatever it's got to be. Or maybe we'll just digitize you. We'll
You know
have
what?
Mike GPT.
I think as a prank, we should do an AI episode and see how many people notice,
Absolutely.
which is neither of us.
Somebody out there needs to help
Yeah.
us come up with that. Because remember that prank that somebody put together for Lep 500 where
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was good.
yeah, it's possible, I think.
I think it's very possible.
I want to thank our members, the Coder QA crew. Our numbers could use some boosting, I have to say. I was looking at the stats, and the Coder membership numbers could be stronger. CoderQA.co. You get a ad-free version of the show, plus you support the ongoing production. You're investing in the actual production costs and helping us keep it going. And we also have a party membership, Jupiter.party, where you can support all the shows. That's also very welcome. My goal here is during the summer, and I don't think we're really doing very good. I don't think we're trending in the right direction for this goal. But my goal here is if the ad market were to somehow return by the end of the year, which I think is probably unlikely at this point, but if it were, it would be amazing if we didn't have to put more sponsors in this show. Because I think the more sponsors we have, the more work I have to do that's not related to show content, the more kind of like compromises that could have to be made down the road for not content, but for tone. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this meta topic recently. And I think the fundamental problem with publishing on YouTube or publishing on Spotify or any platform that inserts ads, and dynamic ads is kind of what I'm getting at. It creates kind of this general floor of how the discourse should be, what the content should be, what the focus of the content should be. And you notice it because like all YouTubers kind of do the same things, or everybody on Twitter that gets traction kind of has to do the same things. This is all part of like being in the platform. And I would be really happy if this podcast could survive predominantly by listener support and then the podcast being really selective about the sponsors we choose. Because one, it's a lot less work that isn't outside the content. We can focus more on the show. And two, it means we get to say no to the ones that I'm uncomfortable with, the ones that you might be uncomfortable with. And the way we get there is either through monthly memberships or through boosts to the show. Those are the two platforms that we're really focusing on during this ad winter. And I'm trying to see where it goes. We had a great week last week, not as great this week. So overall, the trend has been down. And so I don't know if this will work, but we're still trying it through this ad winter summer. And then we're going to kind of reevaluate in the fall, I think.
Right. And if that doesn't work, we're just going to take online sports betting ads pretty soon.
Could do, those dynamic ads. I was listening to a podcast that had a dynamic ad for a credit card in a different language.
I had one that had an ad for like my local Honda dealer. I was like,
"Oh yeah, man!
You geotagged me?"
They do, yes, they do, yeah.
I'm not. One thing I will say that I would hate to go that dynamic ad route just because. Have you noticed on a lot of these shows they're not like cut properly?
Right.
Like the personal view, you could tell they needed like another second to like naturally finish the sentence. But the way the dynamic ad insertion works, it's just like. And so that's why we're doing. And your local Honda dealer has some great financing options available.
It's so jarring.
Yeah.
That's because the cutting is happening on the platform side.
Well, it's programmatic, right?
Yeah.
They're not,
And cutting an MP3 precisely can be like when we do cuts, when we do programmatic cuts here at JB, we always do it from source FLAC files, and then we encode the result into an MP3.
And you know what? No robot will ever replace the glory, perfection, and artisanship that is Drew.
That's very true. That's very true. And when you boost into the show, that's another way to support. Portion of that boost goes to Drew. It goes to the new podcasting developers. It goes to JB, of course. It also goes to the Podcast Index to help encourage and support the podcasting 2.0 ecosystem. We'll have the boost coming up later in the show. We have some great messages in there. So thank you, everybody who does support. And if you've been considering it, we'd love to see a few more people step up. We'll have links in the show notes for all of that. Mr. Dominic, you've been hitting your head against ChatGPT's programming limits, it sounds like. I mean, that's the tease you gave me, at least.
Yeah, so, all right. I have a little bit of silicon bacon here.
Oh, silicon bacon. Yikes. I don't know if I want to eat that, but smells surprisingly good.
It's the finest out of Shenzhen. I think these articles have been popping up in my Artifact. Yes, I use the Artifact app. You can yell at me later. My Artifact feed that people are thinking that ChatGPT 4 has been significantly nerfed. And I'm not sure how true that is, but I have noticed one really big flaw. And it came up, and I was asking it questions. So, like, I'm working on this Unreal C++ thing. It's kind of my backfill project. Like, I work on it, with my, just a couple days a week I work on it, right? And it it doesn't know things that I think it should know.
You have like an
And then
example?
so yeah, it doesn't know like what the new APIs are, right?
Oh, okay.
So then I gave it like a question I already knew the answer to in Angular, something I'm like much more, fluent in. And it was both out of date and kind of wrong. So I did some digging. It one doesn't know anything past September 2021, which they say, right? We know that. But I'm pretty sure it is not actually thinking. Once you get past like the write me a basic, you know, fizzbuzz or whatever, it's not tying like the different classes and the architecture together very well, which I actually think is a good thing, right? All this doom and gloom that programmers are screwed, I don't think so.
Ah,
Now, that's not to say that it's not helpful, right? It's particularly good at things like what is the CSS, stupid browser specific flag for whatever obnoxious thing Apple makes you do, right? And I'm seeing the same thing in Copilot, which I think makes sense because isn't it built on GPT?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like I've been trying, and this is I didn't put this in the notes, but I got into the access for the Copilot X and the chat interface for it
Yeah,
that
okay.
you can
Right.
add into Visual
Where
Studio
you're
Code.
supposed to be able to ask it about your project and whatnot.
It has been crashing left and right. And it's been like I had to keep like updating it, and I get it, it's early access, so whatever. But I'm not sure that this is the end of the world that people say it is. Now, I think it's going to help a lot of junior developers muddle through like Stack Overflow does, and that as a learning tool, I think it's good. Like, I mean, we've covered this before, but the hard limit of it, one, I swear it used to do more looking around for data than it does now. Like, it just seems generally less aware of the world.
So you think there has been some nerfing,
I mean, I can't prove it, right?
but it feels less useful.
I don't know if it's because I'm using it more for stuff. Like, one thing that was really weird is that one of the first challenges I gave it was to write me a marketing plan for the new Alice update. It The first time I did it, when I first got into the ChatGPT 4 months ago, it wrote this really good, like I would have paid some consultant, $4,000 to write it. Now, and it referenced the Alice website and like copy off of my website. Now it says it can't reference the website. So I'm wondering if this is like some sort of switch they hit because of all the Sarah Silverman suing them stuff, right? Like they're getting sued left and right for people allegedly stealing content. Um, or I mean, I don't know, right? This is a thing. I don't want to like put too much conspiracy juice into the water here, but it certainly seems like its pool of knowledge has become much shallower.
Well, I'd like to know if the audience has noticed the same thing. That'd be a interesting little bit of data from you out there. I would say it would make sense that they would be more cautious and that they would stop pulling in as many different sites and that they would expect people to bring that data in through plugins now. Because then it's more implicit on your part or on the producer's part, wherever the website is or the original source. So I could see them just playing it safe. I don't know, though. I can say it doesn't seem like it's gotten any better. That's my take, is that I've learned what all the ChatGPT based stuff is pretty good at and what it sucks at. And even the stuff that it's been traditionally good at, I sometimes get like I asked it one time to do something for me, and I said, "Could you redo it?" And it completely changed all of the formatting for me. It changed everything about it and gave me a totally different output, which was totally unusable. And it just completely loses what I'm asking it sometimes still. So I think what it is we're just aware of the limits of this tool, but we're still hearing, like I was just on the live stream before the show playing some Bloomberg clips where they're interviewing Sache and Sam Altman, and they're just going on about how it's going to change the world. Altman even says in this interview that if there is an AI apocalypse, I'm not kidding you, I'm not making this up, I am not exaggerating. He says, if there is an AI apocalypse, no preparing, no off grid bunker with food, weapons, nothing you can do will save you from the AI apocalypse if it happens. He said that in this interview.
All right, come on, isn't that just like marketing? Come on,
Well,
my
that's why I think
technology
you and I are sitting here
is.
scratching our head going, well, wait a minute here. It just doesn't seem that it's not that maybe it's been nerfed. It's just that we're sort of becoming a little bit bored with it because it isn't improving.
This is bad. You know what that kind of talk reminds me of though?
What?
Those late night Comedy Central male enhancement commercials. Your stuff is going to be so, so
Yeah.
virile, so dangerous that watch you don't do any damage. Like, come on, that's bullshit. It's like the same macho marketing nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, if it can't help me correctly cast F strings from Unity to the proper type of encoded string for it's not important, the details of what I'm doing, but to an NS string that
Mhm.
is acceptable to iOS without screwing up the formatting, right? Then I don't think it's going to kill me or be able to. Like it's just not. I literally Googled it and I found like some guy's blog who was like, "Oh yeah, you have to do this because reasons, right? Like UTF formatting
Good
stuff."
old Google. Have
Yeah.
you seen all of the Twitter hype around Cursor this weekend? This is another
No.
one of these. So it's a VS Code fork that is hyper built around AI. And they're using GPT-4. One of the examples I saw that actually seemed kind of useful is I was watching this guy on YouTube, and he opens up his whole GitHub repository in this thing, and then he just tells it, hey, could you automatically generate a README for this? And it looks at everything, figures it all out, and generates a basic readme.md for his repo, which is kind of neat. It also claims that it can help heal your repository when you're halfway through a refactor. They claim that it can auto fix errors when they show up in the terminal. People say that it's been pretty good here. I got grabbed a couple of things people are saying. Alex McCaw on Twitter said, Cursor is the best product I've used in a while. I've asked it to write a README project for working on and analyze the code base. It worked the first time. Satigo on X said, I'm considering dropping Visual Code as my code editor. I never thought this was going to happen, but here we are. I'm trying Cursor, an AI-first code editor. Artificial intelligence is not a feature for them. It's the whole thing. If you like Visual Studio Code, you'll feel at home in Cursor, except AI is everywhere. Recommend you check them out. This is not a sponsored post. I mean, there's just a lot of hype around this Cursor. I downloaded it. They have an app image for Linux. And to me, it looks like VS Code with a lot more boxes that are distracting me. But all weekend long, I saw people talking about how Cursor is the true GPT-4 IDE and that it truly understands what you're working on, and on and on and on.
I mean, I'll have to try it. I am skeptical, cautiously
Yeah.
optimistic. I think it's interesting that this is a paid, presumably proprietary, not proprietary, but
Well,
paid.
yeah, it's
You pay for the
forked, right? It's
service.
forked
Okay.
on VS Code. Yeah, you pay. There is an account, and you pay for the service.
Mm.
Although I was able to skip the account creation screen that came up, and then just start using the app. I don't know about any of the
There's a
tie-in
free tier,
services.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Create new tickets for bugs or feature requests. Okay.
Yeah, auto debug, fix lints, just they got all kinds of stuff in here that seems kind of interesting. And the fact that it's multi-platform. They have a GitHub repo just for issues, but I don't see the code up there. So it's cursor.so if you're listening and you want to check it out. I mean, this might be worth your eyes just because you are pretty
Yeah.
familiar with this tooling, and I don't know, they're coming out hard.
I don't know. It's definitely worth a shot. I mean, it's funny, right? Because we're going to get a lot of these, I think, editors coming out that
Sure.
are.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's interesting that it's forked from VS Code.
Yeah, and so it also supports VS Code extensions, and on the first run, it'll ask you if you want to just auto import your existing VS Code extensions.
Oh, you can give it, if you have an OpenAI dev account, you can give it your OpenAI key to run it at your own cost instead
Yes.
instead of theirs. All right.
Mhm.
So that, yeah, I'll give that a shot because I can just.
I think the difference would be like for me, my open AI key only gives me GPT-3, where if I go through them, I would get access to GPT-4 without having to pay a whole bunch to
You
open
got to
AI.
step up to 4. 4 is also much more socially conscious for some reason, which
That's
a
always fun.
whole yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. You know?
Humans should I'm reading their blog now. Humans should focus on bigger problems. Whoa. I'm getting serious Elon
Altman.
plus Adam Newman.
And
Yeah.
Altman
Yeah.
too. He was just saying the same thing earlier.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Mm-hmm.
time I hear that, like making the world, I get very nervous.
Yeah, in this interview with Bloomberg, he says, I'll put a link to it in the show notes since I keep referencing it. He says too that people will be doing things that don't look like work today. Some people will be choosing to just sit on the beach. But the thing that I can't wrap my head around is how can we have such an advanced society where some of us are choosing to like research cold fusion if none of us understand the basics, right? Like in order to be a good systems administrator, you should probably understand file permissions. You should understand security a little bit. You should understand networking quite a bit. Like there's these fundamentals you should know in order to be good at something. Like to be a rocket scientist, you probably should understand how basic combustion works.
Okay,
But if
but
we
if you're
create an AI guided society where nobody's doing any trade skills or anything labor involved or anything that we will lose those skills just like we apparently lost a lot of the skills on how to get a crew to the moon and
or
we're
like
having to rebuild.
manufacturing,
Yeah, and
right?
manufacturing. Yes, there's things we can no longer manufacture anymore.
Right. Well, also, this whole Star Trek future of like, if you want to just chill and own a little tea shop and not, never make money, but it's your passion. Um, I don't think our culture is going to allow that, right? Because the people doing work are going to resent the people not doing work. Think about how stingy we are with things like, and this is the wannabe junior Republican congressman saying it, but healthcare benefits, right? Child benefit. I just don't see it. I don't see the guy doing cold fusion unless he's truly passionate, being okay with the dude who's just sitting there in a jam band at whatever the hippie version of Starbucks is.
Yeah, and it seems like the only way we'd ever even conceivably be able to get to that future is if these things were actually developing at the pace and rate of change that Sam Altman warns us they are, but they're not. Right? We've kind of plateaued. And I say this because I've been trying out the different available tools. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the self-hosted ones I've been trying, and there's some slow improvement, and they're getting better, but it's not this tidal wave of change that's going to revolutionize our industries. Not yet, and I just I can't believe it. I really can't believe that they're still getting this traction. I'll have to put a link to that interview because it's just they're so in over at Bloomberg. See, this was like what I was getting to earlier when I mentioned the world of advertising and kind of how you have to talk and everything is you really have to be just hype and pro everything. Because if you come out and you crap on something like ChatGPT or the Bing integration or whatever, you're crapping on what they all are betting on to make money right now. And they all notice. All the companies notice those guys, that outlet, they crapped on this instead of embracing it. And it's not just sponsor money they cut off, it's access to information. They try to isolate you through sponsors, through denying access. And it's a platform, it's this whole system that creates outlets like The Verge, because The Verge is the only way the business model works is if you essentially pump everything for them. And we're just, I guess, going to be stuck with this until some other innovation comes along and the hype cycle transitions to whatever the next thing is, which is seemingly very far out at this point.
Yeah, and the other weird thing is like we're pre-regulating this stuff when I don't think it's as impressive as the marketing. So seems a little weird.
Tailscale.com/coder. Hey, head on over there right now if you're listening live and support the show. It's a nice little bump for them. But also, speaking of VS Code extensions, Tailscale has a VS Code extension, and it just got a huge update. You can now navigate and edit files on any node in your tailnet and edit them with VS Code, all powered by Tailscale SSH. That's so freaking awesome for me because all of my servers are on Tailscale, and I prefer to edit all of the config files if I could through VS Code. And I used to use the old kind of clunky SSH extension that Doesn't always work for me, and this game changer. Anyways, Tailscale is great, and it's a nice way to support the show. They've been a great sponsor, and they're one that I enthusiastically am happy to have on board. I use the hell out of them. Tailscale.com/SSH.
Okay, so some real-time follow-up. I have installed Cursor. It just ran the import my oh my God, what do you call them?
Extensions.
Extensions, thank you, from VS Code. I gave it my OpenAI key. It is, who's freaking out? Someone's, okay, GitHub is, yeah, okay. So GitHub, what do you call it? Copilot wants me to log in. That makes sense. But theoretically, I don't need to log in with Copilot, right?
That's what I was thinking, because it asked me that too. I'm like, does it use both? I did not log into Copilot, but I thought about it.
So let's try a real experiment here. Let's go. Will that work? Internal Alice. Okay, open. I know Copilot. You hate it when you're not authorized, but just wait, my darling. Okay. Well, it even took my setting that I put the menu bar on the right instead of the left.
Oh, that's nice. So it imported also some of your overall UI settings. I didn't even notice that.
It doesn't seem to have. Is it because it's not big enough? Okay. I got to make that one. Okay, so they have a slightly different UI. All right. So can it run my little beautiful build stuff? Let's see. Let's do a build on the front end version of Alice that isn't out yet. Ooh,
Yeah,
that works.
It
okay.
is, huh? Okay, good.
Which makes sense because that's a VS extension. What was I working on? Let's go. What to do? All right. So let's see. Okay, so it says Command L to chat, Command K to generate. Should we chat?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, so let's go.
That's one of their big pitches, is that you can chat with your project.
Make the instructor, instructor take a optional chart data value as its input. Ooh.
What you getting back?
A code that oops. Okay. So return does not do what I think it does. Let's try that again. Make the constructor take an optional chart data as an input. Okay. I'm going to accept it. Okay, so it didn't notice the other constructor. So the TypeScript thing is correctly saying that that's wrong. But I will say, here I'm gonna throw it in the chat.
Yeah.
It's a little, I would say, very like what CodePilot might generate. Kind
Okay.
of naive. Doesn't actually validate the data itself. Maybe I should have told it that. That is not crazy. I mean, that is, for just getting like a first run, I would probably take that.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'd probably want to go a step further and make sure, because like the labels and data sets fields are required to actually render the graph. But yeah,
pass the first test.
That's the first. All right, so I'll give this a run. I'll run with this for a couple days.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to remember to ask you about it next week.
Yep.
So you've been playing around with MetaGPT a little bit. I've also been playing around with the tool for a bit, but mine's a little different. Tell me about MetaGPT. This seems pretty neat.
Yeah, MetaGPT is a little different. You first of all, you run it locally, so it reminds me a lot of the philosophy behind that old Mycroft AI.
Yeah,
if you remember that.
I do.
So I have it running on a very, very overworked DO droplet. It has this concept of different actors, so it spins up different AI agents that have the following roles: product manager, project manager, architect, and developer. And it basically, very Unixy, passes your request to each of them in succession down to the developer. Its strongest language is Python. So far, I've been able to do like trivial things with it, like little test cases. But it is for those of you who are more in the I want to host everything myself vein, it's a pretty interesting option to look at, and it is very early days.
So this is interesting. It's essentially filtering it down through different agents that have assumed roles, and then it's taking their output and providing it to the next agent in the line, and then I guess it's ultimately giving you something that's been filtered through all of them, and the end product is usable.
Yes, like trivial things are usable. Like if you're a comp sci student and you want to cheat some, you got get yourself a $10 Linode or Dio droplet, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Those kind of like it doesn't understand like larger scale things. It doesn't like in many of these things. It doesn't seem to understand how to look for like third party APIs. Right? It doesn't like get that yet, but it does know how to say like in theory, how would you generate like a REST API for this?
Well, that would be really powerful if it could eventually tie into, like your Kanban board or something like that, your calendar, things like that
Yeah.
as well.
Well, it feels like an open source project that's destined to get either, completely Sherlocked by some big
Right.
company
Hmm.
or like the developers just get acquired.
Yeah, I sort of feel like that about Surge, which is something I've been playing with, which is also a self-hosted app. What's kind of neat about this is everything is CPU optimized, so I throw it up on a high CPU Linode, and even there, it's still kind of slow because if you go the CPU route, you really need a lot of CPU cores. But what's neat about this is it essentially lets you throw all of the various large language models that are out there on the internet into this thing and tweak their settings and try out each one of them. And it even gives you a UI to just download them. So you don't even have to go out and find all of the different models. It'll give you an interface, and they're huge. It'll give you like the low memory, the large memory, and it has some of Facebook's more recent stuff. Not the most recent, but it has a lot of that. And it has some of the open source ChatGPT stuff and the different models you can throw in there. And it's fun to play with them. And, it's good at basic questions, and then you try a different model and you can tweak the settings, and it gives you all of the knobs. None of the things that ChatGPT or Bard give you, all of the public stuff has been really kind of bolted down. The results are often better on the public services because they have just ginormous, inconceivable resources behind them, and they've also finely tuned them for generating the kind of answers people typically want. Whereas this, you have to fine tune yourself. But because you can run it on your own system, it's all essentially Docker based. And I mean, I think I got it up in minutes, and I'm pretty sure it's just Docker based. And it gives you that built in access to all the other large language models you might want to try. It's such a fun experimental tool as long as you have some CPU cores. It's mostly written in Python. There's a little TypeScript in there, and a few other things. But I'll put a link to it. It's called Surge, Serge, and it's large language models made easy. And it's all CPU optimized stuff too, so it kind of reduces the barrier of entry. It will be slow though, but it's a lot of fun to play with if you've got a machine you can throw it on that has some CPU cores. That's the stuff. Like and then one day, I'll be able to point that at like notes.jupiterbroadcasting.com or the RSS feeds and transcripts. And then wouldn't that be cool to have like a self-hosted Jupiter chat GPT interface where you could ask it questions? Hey, when did the guys talk about this? Because a lot of times in our Telegram group, happened to me just last night, somebody says, hey, Chris, you mentioned a movie in this episode of Linux Unplugged. Do you remember what movie or TV show you were talking about? And I'm an old man, of course. I have a bad memory. I forget. But if I had something like that, it would be so handy. And there's so many use cases for those types of things. And I love playing around with the self-hosted stuff.
Yeah, keep your data.
4 score and 7 boosts to go.
All right. Well, Two-Way 6 came in with 33,404 sats. I like that number a lot. Coming in with Fountain, he says, hey, buddy's listening to Coda Radio since 2019. Well, hey, buddy, back at you. That's great. He says, I'm switching from a Python scripting civil engineer into a software engineering role which wouldn't have been possible without this here show. It kept me up to date, showed me what to look out for and which technologies to invest my time into. Bingo! Keep up the good work. Greetings from Germany. Well, thank you, 2A6. All the way from Germany. I'm glad we could help you stay up to date. It's one of it's our duty, and we take it seriously. Not Mr. Dominic, he doesn't, but I do.
No, I don't take anything seriously.
Oh, I kid. The Golden Dragon comes in with 10,240 sats from Fountain. It says, sending in my weekly love to the show. Bubba
We're loving you
Boost.
too.
Thank you, Golden Dragon. Oh, and Kiro comes in. I call him Cairo.
KIRO FM 97.3 Tacoma, Seattle. Your world.
Because one of our local radio stations, of course, is KIRO. He comes in with 15,801 sats using Podverse. He says, I completely agree with Mike on his take with Python and TypeScript.
You should. I'm always right.
I even thought he'd say TypeScript first before the snake. I'm basically doing TypeScript full time now for both front end and back end, React and Nest.js. And it's just fantastic. I do feel like I'm lacking knowledge a little bit. I tried to avoiding @TSIgnore comments all over the place. And he provides a great TypeScript learning resource, a getbook.io resource, which we'll put in the show notes. Doesn't know if it's been mentioned on the show, and I don't think it has, so we'll include it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too, because it's a really easy crutch to just TS-ignore your way to glory in the beginning. I would say if there's like one rule you really don't like, you can just go ahead and what is it? TS config? I don't know. I have one that I use all the time, but just do it globally.
Boom.
But really as little as possible, right? Because kind of the whole point of TypeScript is the type checking and the little more strictness to make your code hopefully maintainable in the future.
Neural Peak comes in with 15,000 sats.
Good customers are as rare as platinum. Treasure them.
It says on my
The
last...
Nagus. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, I was watching... Have you ever seen Pluto TV? They have 2 Star Trek channels now. It's like a free streaming service, and they got a 24/7 DS9 channel now.
You could watch them at the same time.
I do. Thankfully,
Yes.
sometimes the commercials, most of them are offset, so I can flip between the TNG channel and the DS9 channel.
Yes.
And it's just great because it picks for me, Neuro writes, on my last Clean Slate project, I chose Node.js because I wasn't very familiar with it. I did make a change and upgraded from ES6 to TypeScript, and I was very happy I did. TypeScript is great to write in. That being said, on my next project, you convinced me that Python and Fast API were the new hotness, so I'm going down the rabbit hole, and I am enjoying it so far. Thank you.
Okay, well, hang on now, right? Like, if you're already doing well with TypeScript and Node, I mean, I'm not the biggest Node fan, but, it's all about getting your project done. I mean, and though, with that said, if you are going to, bite the snake a little bit here, Fast API is great. You get the concurrency stuff, although, like, Flask is catching up. It's so funny, the things that were, like, the new hotness in Fast API, a lot of the other similar frameworks are kind of getting there. Yeah, and I would just recommend that you pay close attention to how you're doing the async await stuff in Fast API, especially when it comes to database access, particularly with Postgres. So,
Don't hesitate. Just embrace your Snake Master status.
well, it's just like Stargate, right? You have to embrace the Goa'uld.
Yeah. The gig comes in with a row of ducks. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Hope we get another Sonic Ding. Well, spoiler alert, not this week, the gig, but I hope so too. Altair the Blue comes in with 10,100 sats using Fountain. Got a fun question. I've been playing out of day-to-day code. I've got a fun question. I've been out of day-to-day coding for some time, and I worked my way up the ladder going from sales to process management. I've recently been wanting to get back to coding more instead of managing flowcharts, and I'm rebuilding my skill set. That said, I can't afford to transition to a junior dev position, not enough pay. Any suggestions for how to get back to the creative side of the industry without a quality of life cut? Not against paying dues, but I need to feed the family also.
Yeah, it's you maybe start getting into like sales engineering.
That was
Or
my
be that.
thinking.
Yeah, that's probably the best halfway step, right?
And there is actually, if it's something you enjoy selling, there can be a fair amount of creativity, expression, and technical skills needed for that is sales engineering. And it sounds like you could probably leverage your existing resume to move to that. Additionally, it also gives you an avenue to continue to learn your development skills because you are sort
Yeah.
of in that role. It's a pretty good justification to stay up to date and potentially make another transition one day. You do have to take it a little more considered if you have a family to consider, which it sounds like you're doing. So
Yeah, that's smart.
let us know how it goes, Altair. User 66 came in with 10,000 sat. Boost, new listener, first time booster.
Woo woo.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who boosted in. We did get one under the cutoff, but I wanted to just give it a shout out since it's about a topic I love. BHH came in with 1,000 sats saying, boosting everything in my fountain wallet just to say, I wonder if Oracle is going to try to add this to the U.S. government. With the Java licensing HUD. Having contracted now being a Fed myself, I know for a fact Java licensing is not in the contracts and it is used heavily.
Well, let's hope it's that open JDK.
Yeah, maybe Oracle does. You know, they build their case in the private sector for a while, and then they go after the public sector.
There might be more sensitivity there, though, because they do have giant government contracts already.
Great point.
I bet they would come in a little more conciliatory. Although the government will end up paying. No, they're going to get that sweet, sweet Uncle Sam Social Security money.
Well, and, when things tighten up, I think they're going to continue to tighten up well into next year.
Yeah, we got another year of this crap.
Yeah, I think so. And
although I'm already hearing whispers of people being like, gee, I do miss the old days. Can't we just like burr a little bit, run the printer a little?
Well, you never know.
Listen, we'll just have 2 crazy VC martinis. We can stop whenever we want.
Right, just one more round.
What's that? A full room of toner? Well, we might as well.
All right, shout out to Dave Jones too, who sends in a weekly 10,000 sat boost.
You're doing a good job.
We had 9 boosters out of the tens of thousands of people that listen. 9 people boosted in 11 boosts across all of those, and we made 767,000 sats. We fell just short of that 200,000 sat goal, but if you've never considered boosting before, now could be your moment to step up and shine. And don't just leave it on the burden of these 9 boosters. Let's get a few more folks in there. You can get Albie. If you don't want to switch podcast apps, getalby.com. Top it off directly. They got a couple of methods. Or you can just grab some sats using something like the Cash App or Strike. It's all on the Lightning Network. There's like a bajillion ways you can do it, but these are the ones I kind of recommend. You send those sats over to Albie. You go to the podcast index. That's podcastindex.org. Find Coda Radio. The boost is just embedded right there. It's really easy. We also have some links on our website. Or you can try out a podcast app that has all the 2.0 features. We're working on some cool experiments and new things for JB shows, so you might want to try it. A lot of these boosters, we're using a new podcast app at newpodcastapps.com. Go try it out. And of course, thank you to our members. We appreciate everything you do. You're the Coder QA crew, and you are our boo. We appreciate you. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you'd like to send the good people before we scoot?
Go to alice.dev, and you can find me on the Twitters or Thread, but I really don't spend much time there anymore.
I think you got to call it X now.
I can't call it X without hearing the X-Men song from the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's so dumb.
I'm just going to plug the Matrix. Details at coder.show/matrix. We have a chat room that goes all week long, and then they're just a great resource during the live show. We're chatting with them as we go. We're hanging out on the live stream. Details at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar for your live time. Get it locally computed for you. Of course, links to what we talked about today are coder.show/532. You'll find our contact form. We love to get your emails. And of course, you'll also find our RSS feeds there. So you can get the show whenever you want, automatically. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Coder Radio program. And we'll see you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. All right. We got to wrap it up for Mr. Dominic here, so let's get to boating. Bearded Tech, that's so great. You're integrating it with blogging. That's the next step. Music and blogging. I'll tell you what. I'm excited about that. All right. I'm doing the titles. Did I do it? No.
Title.
I did it wrong because I'm in a rush. Because I'm dumb. You know what? I learned the old syntax No
Yeah.
one bang suggest.
No one thinks it. All
They-
right, guys.
They were distracted by our great show. I put in there as a possible take it to the limit, and I was thinking about just focusing it on like ChatGPT not getting the job done. But we also talked a lot about editors. So anybody that wants to, you just toss it in there now. We'll just look at it. But mine was take it to the limit.
That's not bad though.
Yeah. Not a bad little, everybody thinks of the song and whatnot. Take it to the limit one more time.
Microsoft to sell off Activision cloud gaming rights to Ubisoft. Oh, Microsoft.
Oh, is
you
this
just,
to appease the EU
the
regulators?
British? Yeah.
The British and the EU. Oh, the UK. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
UK.
Yeah, it's the UK. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow. Damn. Look at that.
Python is now in Excel.
Yes.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I almost put that in the top just to have a laugh, but I like talking about Connect.
Don't laugh, man. I know some freaky deaky, don't call it VBasic coding, Excel scripters. It's like, you guys could just write like an actual script, right?
Ubisoft will compensate Microsoft for cloud streaming rights to Activision Blizzard's game through a one-off payment and through a market-based wholesale pricing mechanism, including an option that supports pricing-based usage. It'll also give Ubisoft the opportunity to offer Activision Blizzard's games to cloud services running non-Windows operating systems.
Never gonna happen.
What?
The opportunity.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, let's not.
What would they? Maybe they'd be talking about NVIDIA. I mean, because the
No, this is gonna be this is like the U.S. and Canada making a deal, right? Or like they're close buddies. This is not.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost feel like, you know what, Mike, unless you're in South Korea, God damn it, you guys and your epic internet are killing me. This whole cloud streaming thing is just not great.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work well for me because I'm either on cellular or Starlink at home.
Well, the problem is when it like I have FiOS, and when it's good, but when it crashes, damn, is it super, like when the FP just randomly drops, it's like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, next week I'm trying to perform surgery on my PS5.
Oh,
I haven't destroyed anything recently, and I thought it's time to give it a shot.
what are you gonna do? Like an upgrade or something?
I need more SSD space.
Yeah, you do.
We have 3 people using it, and it's kind of pathetic how much storage they give you with this thing.
Well,
given
and how big the games are.
Yeah, my stepdaughter downloaded. I got her the Call of Duty 3, whatever, pre-order or whatever. It's almost like 100 gigs or something.
Yeah. Well, so is the new Zelda game.
Oh, on Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least with Switch, I go on Amazon and I buy a stupid 1 terabyte SSD.
Yeah.
I'm not SD card.
Sorry.
With this one, I got to actually open the damn thing up.
I have been thinking about just buying the physical version. It's just I can just see my kids losing the physical version, but then it's
My son just got his ass kicked for losing. What did he lose? He lost Pokemon.
oh
He
yeah,
lost
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Like, how do you lose it? I'm sure it's at grandma's, right? It's somewhere, right?
Fell
It's not
out.
lost.
Yeah.
It's under his bed. It's
Yeah, just it's unknown at this stage.
Well, I got him physical games because he likes to take his Nintendo over to like grandma's or auntie's or whatever. And if you don't do, this on the Switch, if you do the digital, it's always phoning home. And if he doesn't have Wi-Fi, it's like, sorry.
Right. That's another reason it's nice to just have the physical copy for like road trips and stuff.
But I keep forgetting how irresponsible 7-year-olds are, even though I bought him a beautiful Pokemon SD card holder.
Yep. I did that too. I got the case and the holders and that.
I got the case. The Switch goes in the case. Underneath it, it's got it looks like a Pokeball. It's got like a thing for the cartridges.
Yeah,
should have been no problem.
Even though I tell them all the time.
I tell them it's like at the library. You take one in, you take one out, you put
exactly.
One in. You never have 2 out.
What was it? I don't know. I mean, I thought I learned that as a kid, but maybe I didn't. Maybe my parents were like this dang kid with the cartridges all over the place.
Well, I think our cartridges were just significantly bigger.
They were
too.
huge. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They were. Yeah, that's true.
Like, I can't imagine losing a Sega Genesis game.
Yeah. Or an NES cartridge.
Yeah. Oh, NES.
That's totally it. Yeah.
All right. So why don't we go
take it to the limit?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, Mr. Dominic. Have a good week.
I'll talk to you next week. Bye, Z's.
Bye, Z's. Okay, chat room. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Appreciate you. We have self-hosted getting recorded later this week, so you'll see that in the feeds. We're working on a new office hours for you as well. And then we got LUP live on Sunday. Same time, really. Starts at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, jblive.tv. So I hope, at least, I'll see you then. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you next time.